This is The Wheel Weaves, a Wheel of Time podcast with no spoilers. Welcome, listeners. This podcast is safe for first-time readers because it's made by a first-time reader. I'm your host, Danny, and I'm the one who's taken on the task of reading through this 15-book mega-series. I'm joined by my co-host, Brett, who's a longtime fan, and he's acting as my tour guide on this journey. Before we get into our episode today, we have new members to welcome to the Wheel Weaves Patreon team. So we'd like to say thank you to Kevin May, Catherine Black, and Jacob Goenlock for your support and your generous contributions. I also just want to give a little bit of heads up about the audio quality in this episode. We recorded it with our guests, Chris and Kayleigh, across the internet, and we had some funny things happen with our audio recording. So once in a while there might be some feedbacky, echoey stuff, but I did my very best to edit it as best I could. So please forgive me and enjoy the episode. And this episode, we're going to be talking about Chapter 44 with our friends, Chris and Kayleigh.
Yeah. Welcome, guys.
Thanks.
Hey, everybody.
So we know Chris from the podcasting internet world, and we know Kayleigh as our biggest fan on YouTube.
Yay!
Yeah, why don't you guys introduce yourselves real quick?
I'm Kayleigh. I grew up in Charleston, where Robert Jordan is from, and I actually read the entire Eye of the World before I found out that he was from my town. And I got introduced to it the same year that I read Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings, so I noticed a lot of the same parallels that you two keep picking out when you're recording.
And I'm Chris. I have a podcast on a completely different topic called Play Comics, where I look at video games based on comic properties and how well they stick to that source material. So a lot of this going back and kind of looking at where some ideas come from is definitely right in my wheelhouse.
Well, welcome. We're really excited to have you guys.
We're really excited to be here, too. I know Kayleigh doesn't get a chance to be on a lot of podcasts right now, which maybe will change later. But I always like getting to talk about different things.
Yeah, and I honestly gotta say, I was so excited when we first started posting our videos to YouTube. I was like shocked that, number one, anyone even watched them on YouTube. And then when you started responding, it was really funny because we had a ton of conversations just about the fact that Kayleigh was such a huge fan. You replied to like almost every single video, if not every single video. Yeah. And I was just really excited that we had such an interactive fan for our podcast.
Yeah. And I was like, she has more notes on our chapters than I think I do.
Yeah.
I was like, we got to get her on because she's going to have so much insight for us.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed listening to you, and I'm having a lot of fun going back and rereading this as an adult because I was in 6th grade. I was like 12 when I started reading this, and I didn't notice a lot of the stuff that I'm picking up on now. And hearing you talk about it, especially Danny and your predictions, is just the most entertaining thing ever.
That's funny. So is this your first reread since you were
a kid? I read the first 9 books after they'd come out in paperback, and the 10th book was the first one that I had to wait on. I've read it once, and then I keep getting hooked on different series and stuff, so I never really had time to go back and read all of these, because I knew if I started rereading it, I wouldn't have time to read any of the other books, because I'm really bad at putting a book down, especially when it's at an exciting part.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
Yeah, I don't know how you're doing it.
Yeah, it's my biggest challenge so far.
Chris, have you read through the entire series, or have you done a reread yet?
I've read through probably like 95% of it. I was being a substitute teacher when she introduced me to the series. And so I brought those with me because I tried to grab middle school and high school jobs because then I'd have a whole period of not having kids in the room so I could read the book. And then she got me the final one on my Nook, and then my Nook died when I was probably like halfway through it.
Oh, so you just like never finished it?
I just never finished it. So this is being my chance to go through and actually finish it this time.
Because for some reason he won't read the paper copy that I have. Because I read them all in actual book form.
I think I just got discouraged.
Okay, that's fair. I'd be upset too. I feel like that's what happened to me with Game of Thrones. I never finished the 4th book. And I think it was on my Kobo. And then my Kobo blew up on me. And I never finished the book.
Yeah.
Oh no. I haven't read Game of Thrones yet. I have a friend who said I can borrow her copy, but then she keeps forgetting to get it to me, so.
Yeah. All right, Brett, do you have something to start us off here today?
Yeah, I do have a bit of a fun fact to start us off for today, and I thought it was decently relevant because we've all read through the book series, and we each kind of had our own separate journeys on how we got into the book series. And most notably with you, Danny, obviously I had to work really, really hard at convincing you to do so.
Yeah.
And I was looking through different interviews with Robert Jordan, and I had found one where someone asked him, "This is such a gigantic series, I'm nervous about getting started because it seems it's such a big task."
Yes.
And I think a lot of people who read these books or who are in love with these books, sometimes when you try to introduce it to your friends, you can get a little bit, too excited about it like I did. And the fact that it is such a long series can kind of, demotivate people from starting it. So Robert Jordan had a really good answer to that question of what do I do if I think this task is too big? So RJ says, you can give it a try and see how you like it. You must start with book 1, The Eye of the World, and you'd absolutely lose your play, like you'd lose it if you tried to start in the middle of the series, but The Eye of the World has a completeness to it, unlike the other books, so it can really be read as a standalone novel. So you can read it, just the one book, and then if you decide you want to read on, then you can, and if not, the one book by itself will still make sense.
That's interesting because my dad, he picked it up when I picked it up.
Yeah.
And so he's gone on way farther than I have. But I remember when he finished Eye of the World, he didn't tell me anything about it, but he said, it's interesting because of how everything wraps up in the book. I can't imagine how things are going to go on from here.
Yeah.
Like my dad said that when he finished book 1, so.
Yeah, and I definitely felt that way, and I think that's why I was okay with rereading the first book a couple of times when I was young.
Yeah.
And I wasn't as interested as finding the other books in the series, because book 1 really wraps up the storylines neatly, and book 2 is almost like a separate addition to the adventure, saying, we're going forward from here.
Huh. I never noticed that it actually wrapped things up, but I went straight into reading the second book. I had a friend who was sitting next to me on the school bus every morning, and she was way farther ahead in the books than me, and she's like, no, you have to keep reading. So I didn't pause between books at all until I had to.
And we had me start with the prequel.
I just wanted to see what would happen.
Oh.
Really?
One of those.
Yeah. I've heard people say that, and it almost sounds like blasphemy to me, but it doesn't necessarily spoil things, I don't think, for the rest of the series. It's like a nice little prequel to everything without giving away too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, she kept asking me about it after I had finished books or stuff, and I don't feel like it really ruined anything. It kind of gave me some different perspective on some characters that she definitely couldn't have picked up on when she had been at that point the first time. But I can totally understand why Robert Jordan would say read the first one first.
It is the first one for a reason.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and what's interesting with Harry Potter? When I'm trying to get adults to read it, I tell them to start with book 3.
Really?
Yeah.
That makes sense to start with book 3. It's because after that point, it's kind of more grown up. The first ones are definitely more of a kid's book.
Yeah, they're targeted towards kids, and then by the third book, the writing is better. It's more interesting. The plot twists are better. It's a little bit longer. It's less predictable. And as an adult reader, I could see why adults don't get into the Harry Potter books, because they're targeted at children, so the first couple books aren't very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're reading about an 11-year-old written for an 11-year-old.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So out of curiosity, was that an intentional Harry Potter reference?
No.
Oh, it wasn't?
No,
okay.
that was just an impromptu one. I'm just so good at talking about Harry Potter.
Yeah, well, I know Chris and Kayleigh were really excited for Harry Potter references, so I guess we got to do it.
Yeah, I guess so.
All right, and you guys told me you have special shot glasses that I want you to talk about.
Yeah, mine came from the Firefly Distillery, which is on an island near Charleston. It's actually the island where my parents live, and my mom happens to work at the distillery and vineyard that are there. And when you do a tasting, they let you keep the shot glass. So Firefly is mostly sweet tea vodka, but they've also branched out into moonshine and coffee, rum, and all kinds of stuff.
Okay.
And Chris, what shot glass do you have? Or is it the same?
Mine is for the University of Georgia because I like their football team.
Nice. Okay. What's the mascot?
Bulldogs.
Go Bulldogs. And I have Maui, Hawaii.
Oh.
which was a gift. Both of these shot glasses actually were gifts. I
Yeah.
have not been to Maui.
And mine,
Can you figure it out?
oh yeah. Mine is from Peru. It's Peru.
Okay. Also a gift.
Yes. There's like a llama on mine, which
Yeah,
is
yours
pretty
is
cool.
cute.
Yeah.
Mine-
Okay, cheers. We'll just leave 5 to 7 minutes to recover for everyone, so.
Oh, I worked in kitchens.
Okay.
I'm good.
That wasn't so bad. All right, so let's get into it then. Chapter 44, The Dark Along the Ways. And you guys picked out this chapter specifically like months ago. We said, we got to get you on the podcast. You want to be a guest? And you said, yep. And we were probably at like chapter 30 or something at that point.
Yeah, it was a while.
So tell me why chapter 44 speaks to you guys.
Mostly, I just wanted the chapter where they were in the ways, and I forgot that it was actually split between more than one chapter. But yeah, I think the ways are such a super cool thing, and that I really wish we had something like that now, just not the scary version, the original version of the ways.
Right, not
Yeah.
the tainty version.
Yeah. Tainty death
The
murder
tainty
side. Yeah.
version.
Yeah, I want the pretty version.
All right, and then we have our picture of some leafy vines.
Yeah, the 3 leaves on a vine, and we've gotten this a bunch of times before.
Yeah.
Typically when it comes to like...
Nynaeve, actually.
Nynaeve, I think
Yeah.
the Tinkers, maybe Loial, I think was one. So it's just generally like, I think, peaceful people.
Okay. All right, so we last left off. The gang is all together at the Queen's Blessing. They have to escape from Camelin unnoticed, and we've just learned that they have to go to the Blight now.
Yes, big change in plans.
Yeah, Loial was totally peer pressured into breaking all the rules and taking them through the ways, even though it's all dark and tainty. And Moiraine is sure it's the only way to safety. The boys, at least Matt and Rand, have had another Beelzemon dream, and now Moiraine is totally aware of most of it.
Yes.
Okay, quick breakdown, and now let's get into what's going on now.
Yeah.
So Rand, Moiraine, and Matt head down to meet up with the others. Rand notes that Matt is staying close to him, like he's almost afraid to be alone.
Yeah, the way I kind of think of Matt right now is he's just woken up from a really, really bad dream where lots of bad stuff happened because he didn't really have a recollection of lots of it.
Yeah.
But I can imagine there was like an impression left on him of, bad things going on in his own head.
Yeah.
So now he's like afraid to be alone.
Well, and he has to like carry around the dagger with him so he doesn't die, and it's all full of evil, so like that's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel really bad for Matt, but at least he's not as sick anymore. He's able to function and be a little more of himself.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and getting to see Matt in his real form now, hopefully, should be exciting for Danny.
Yeah, I always liked Matt, and so I've been rooting for him to just get back to being normal again.
I actually didn't like him at first when I first read the series because he was a rule breaker and I was the complete opposite of him. But later on in the series, I started really liking him once we get to know him a little better, and he's actually a really fun character. So,
Yeah, he's a lot of fun. It's like, I feel like you probably liked Perrin.
yes, I have way more in common with Perrin than any of the others.
So does Brett.
Yeah, and that was something that was really funny because in my heart, I always wanted to relate to Rand and Matt, but in reality, I think that I've always been more of a parent.
Perrin's not a bad person to be because he thinks things through and he's probably less likely to get himself killed than somebody who's just going to run ahead and break whatever rules he feels like.
Boring.
Yeah, but that's the thing.
Boring.
Plus, he gets to hang out with the wolves, and that's just really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he does definitely get way cooler.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool power he picks up in the first book here.
And
so.
it does point out that Perrin is almost as calm as Lan at this point. So the wolves have done something for his character to make him calm in this situation.
So I was actually going to ask about this just to see what Danny's perspective on this was. Is Perrin a lot calmer or more like Lan in that sense because he is emotionally more strong right now? Maybe something to do with the wolves? Or is it because he's more resigned to his fate? Because we did get a lot of negativity in the last couple chapters where he's saying, oh, why don't we lie down and die?
Yeah, we should
right?
all just die.
We should all just die. What good are we, right? Versus,
Maybe.
so it's kind of like a weird thing that he could be looking stoic, not out of bravery, but out of like just
Resignation.
resignation and not caring what happens to him.
Well, Rand notes a couple times in the last couple chapters, Perrin is looking resigned. And
Yeah.
he doesn't look worried about things, but not because he like cares, but I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
tough.
weird. It's a weird thing. And we don't get in Perrin's head at all, so it's not like we get to actually find out.
Yeah.
All right, well, anyway, they all pass through the kitchen, and this must be a pretty odd scene because the cook and all the kitchen staff all just stare at our group of, like, sneaky sneaks being all quiet before the sun comes up. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, it's a gigantic party of people, so...
But it also seemed like it was something that was, common enough to where it didn't freak them out, but not common enough to where they would just totally ignore it.
Yes. So they sneak out to the stable yard in the dark and file out one at a time. And as they get to the stable, there's a bit of light inside the stable, and Rand notes that all the horses are all saddled and ready to go.
Yeah, also, side note, this had to have been a really fun, like, horse reunion, too. The horses are all back together. We got all the characters
except
back
that,
together.
like, Cloud and Perrin's horse are just, like, dead somewhere that we
Okay.
never get to talk about again.
We don't know if they're dead. We just... Well,
They might be running around being free.
yeah, they could be.
They're now wild horses. That's
Yes.
what I'm going to picture.
Yeah.
Horses are big and scary.
Because Rand left his... Rand left his at the boat, I think, and then Perrin's went into the river, but horses can swim, so...
Yes, but
M-
can they
maybe-
get out of a flowing river?
Maybe they're all okay.
It doesn't really sound that way.
Oh, I
Whatever.
also had a side note there, too. Loial can't see in the dark.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's just like
he's like
sometimes...
stumbling and he sort of mumbles that he's not a cat.
Yeah. Like, and I know that it shouldn't be like a thing you should think that Ogier can just see in the dark just because.
Well, they're animalistic, and most
They are.
animals are better at seeing in the dark, so that's what I would assume.
Yeah.
So it's just an interesting note, I guess.
Yeah, and there's this huge comparison of Trollocs to Ogier, just because there are some similarities, like in size and, maybe features in some ways. But, yeah, can't see in the dark, so.
Yeah, and while he's complaining about not seeing in the dark, he sounds like that kid from the Magic School Bus who's always like, at my old school, we didn't do things this way. So he's like, we don't go running in the dark in the steading. He's just whining.
And then who's the kid who's like, I knew I should have stayed home today?
Yeah.
Arnold!
Yeah.
Is
It's like naive, maybe. I knew we should have stayed in the Two
Yeah.
Rivers, guys.
Yeah.
He's my favorite character, but he's just so whiny at this part.
Yeah, so whiny. Well, he's really upset. He doesn't want to be doing any of this, and he totally got bullied into it.
That's true.
That's what he gets for being hasty, though.
Yes, that is what he gets for being hasty.
Yeah,
You're
that
right.
was really funny last
Yeah.
chapter. Like, he says exactly that, so.
Yeah. And he gets a giant pack horse, and then he complains about riding a horse.
Yeah, he'd rather use his feet.
Yeah.
Well, horses are big and scary. I don't blame him at all.
Yeah, I think he's just too big for that poor animal.
I know. And it's by the description, it sounds like a Clydesdale, like from the Budweiser commercials at Christmas.
Yeah, it does, yeah. Like one of those gigantic big horses.
Yeah. But he says that his own feet have always been good enough, and right now they're just sort of playing by Moraine's rules, and she needs him to be on horseback. And so I just sort of have a note, like, I wonder how fast Ogier can run. Like, is a horse actually necessary for him, or do you think he'd be able to keep up? Like, we know Trollocs can run as fast as horses.
Well, so we know, but what do you think?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Ogier probably can run fast.
Just because of their size?
Yeah, but then now I'm thinking of it, and he's so slow and methodical. He's like, dope, doo dope, doo dope, doo dope. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just... Nah, he probably needs a horse.
Okay.
Yeah. I logicked it out.
It's almost like he could move fast, but he, like, won't because
That's too hasty.
he's too hasty. Running is something that's too hasty to do.
Plus, if you have a horse, you have the benefit of saddlebags and stuff to help carry more supplies.
Oh, yeah, and this pack horse is carrying everything for them. So
Yeah.
So it's funny to note also that Rand gets a horse the color of his own hair, whose name is Red.
It's very creative.
It's cute. I like it. So while getting to their horses, Matt says to Rand that Perrin is making him nervous, and he's acting strange, and he wants to know if Rand sees it too. And Rand thinks that this is just Matt and not the dagger talking this time. And so Rand tells Matt that yes, Perrin is acting weird, but he's fine. Whatever's going on with him, Moiraine clearly knows about it, so we shouldn't worry.
Yeah, Moiraine doesn't seem to be worried about it, at least in front of the boys. But I really want Perrin to tell them what's going on because it's obviously bothering him.
Yes, it's bothering all of them.
And then looking at it from Matt's perspective too, he basically hasn't seen Perrin at all with this going on. So this is something brand new to him, and it makes total sense to me why this would freak him out.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's already, like, he's in this mood where he's always suspicious of people, and so maybe it's just, like, force of habit.
Maybe.
Even though now he's not cursed, it's just he's sort of used to being skeptical.
They do realize that Perrin has yellow eyes now, and on anybody, that would be something to pick out.
Yeah.
So.
And they know his eyes didn't used to be yellow, because they kind of grew up with him, so.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Okay, so interesting here, Master Gil has a secret doorway at the back of his stable and says that it's a clear way out and no one will be watching them leave.
Yeah, always handy to have secret passages.
Yeah, and super
we should
cool.
Get one of those. Okay, so Moiraine says thank you to Master Gil and calls him good innkeeper, and then says if he has any trouble from this, to write to Sheriam Sedai?
Yes, you got that right. And that's exciting because we got another name of a Aes Sedai.
Of the Blue Aja.
Yes, same as Moiraine, which we just learned that Moiraine is blue, and so is Sheriam Sedai.
Right, and so she will help. And I just said, okay, so I guess there is at least one other Aes Sedai that Moiraine is friendly with?
Yeah, so we know that she's not the worst at making friends, just doesn't make friends with Reds.
For sure, and
Yeah.
that's why I said, like, maybe it's an Aja thing, and you're only friends with, like, it's really cliquey in Tarvalin, and you can only be friends with, like, your color.
Yeah, where else have we heard that?
Mean Girls?
Yeah, the lunch tables.
On Wednesdays, we wear blue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I was thinking people in your own house from Harry Potter.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, you got it. I was avoiding it. Yeah, we're totally avoiding the Harry Potter reference. Brett's just, like, side-eyeing me.
Yeah, we all know it's a thing.
All right.
I just, I don't want to annoy any listeners who don't like Harry Potter with all the Harry Potter references. You just have to understand that it's the it's the excuse we use to drink. So,
Okay,
all right, cheers.
Okay, so being friendly with your own Aja color is very similar to the Hogwarts houses, except that Slytherins are all racist, so that's why no one's friends with them.
And the Reds might also be. So it's a good thing you bring up here about the Ajas seeming to keep to their own Aja, right? Because the Reds all have kind of come together in Caemlyn, and Moiraine is clearly on the outskirts, and the only person Moiraine talks about here is another blue sister. So I know we joke about the fact that Ajas are keeping to themselves, but do you think that is actually that distinct in the tower, like when you're in, Tarvalin, or is that just, in the outside world?
Well, from the limited view that I have,
It's very limited.
I also was guessing that Elida is green.
You did guess that because she was wearing green. It wasn't terrible, but do you think that it's realistic that all the Aes Sedai would keep more or less to their own colors?
Probably not.
Okay.
Only because they're just people. And I just think that Moiraine probably struggles to get along with people sometimes.
Okay, yeah.
But I do think that there is a hate-on for at least the Red Aja.
Okay. They seem like the extremists.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and then Moiraine just picks up saying, I fear my sisters and I have a great deal to put right already for those who have helped me. That's just sort of confirmation that there are some people who probably like Moiraine in Tarvalin.
At least her own Aja.
Yeah.
And she has left a little bit of a destructive path along the ways from what we can see.
Yes.
Yeah, and at least she seems to be giving people a way to help them out of whatever trouble she caused.
Yeah, well, in the form of bags of gold.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's a good point, because she could just not help.
Yeah.
Like, there is that as an option. She doesn't have
And
to.
it doesn't seem like there's much they could do to stop her.
Yeah, absolutely.
And she is leaving Master Gale with an inn full of rats. And in his own words, the only one in Camelin without rats, which is really going to help him out making money in the future, too. So that's a lot more valuable than a bag of gold. It's like a never-ending bag of gold.
Yeah.
Doubling the patronage.
Yeah, he basically says that she's given him everything he could need with a rat-free inn, so...
And we just got to give, like, Gil one big round of applause, because Gil has been incredibly helpful even before he knew he was going to get anything out of this.
Yes.
Because he was helping Matt and Rand right from the get-go just off of knowing Tom. So it is, like, coming full circle and helping him back now, so...
Yeah, he's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I like him. But, okay, so off our crew go, led by Loial, who sort of cocks his head to the side as if listening to the breeze for directions.
Yeah, it's like feeling it out.
Yeah, especially since he said he can't really explain it. It's like explaining how to breathe. It's got to be something...
He just knows.
Yeah, as they're exiting the inn here, I totally get, like, Lord of the Rings vibe of everybody leaving Rivendell and heading out on the adventure together. It's very similar to Fellowship of the Ring. Yeah.
Oh, yes, I understand what you're talking about.
Yeah, I
It
know
is,
you don't, so...
Okay, well, you know what's interesting? We get some insight about the ways here because Loial has told them that it is darker than the darkest night in them, and they're super prepared with oil lanterns on poles and extra jars of oil all packed and attached to the pack horse.
Yeah, darker than the darkest night. So if Loial has this innate ability to sense the ways, but we know that the ways were created by male Aes Sedai, why do Ogier, even though they were created as like a gift to Ogier, why do Ogier have the innate ability to find them?
Well, maybe because we know they were given the key.
Yeah, the talisman to grow
and so
the gates.
Maybe in the transfer of the key and the way to make the waygates,
sure,
it was transferred, the power was transferred to the Ogier.
Okay.
I don't know, that's all I got for you.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good fact because we do know that the way gates themselves, like the entrance portals, the Aes Sedai made some of them, but the Ogier grew the majority of the way gates.
Right.
So as they refound the steadings, the Ogier created the way gates, while the ways were made by the male Aes Sedai. So yeah, I think that's a good point.
Sounds solid to me.
So as they make their way through the streets of Camelin, the sky starts to lighten a bit and people start to appear in the street, mostly paying no mind to anyone else, except for like one guy notices them and does a double take and stumbles and almost falls because they must look like really weird.
Yep.
This like line of people led by this giant on a giant horse.
So do you think this one person is important?
Well, he let out a strangled cry and ran away.
Okay. Yeah, I just know...
I would say no. I think we're just getting that they look weird, and now people are starting to notice them, so, like, time is of the essence.
Gotcha, okay.
I think no.
Okay.
I think that this is just a device used to sort of make us aware that they really need to get going, because people are starting to notice them, and this is only going to does
Yeah, okay.
I don't think that guy matters.
Okay. No, that's good.
You're
that's
making
good.
a face. Does this guy matter?
No, he doesn't necessarily matter at all. It's just something that I wanted to ask you. Don't be so suspicious.
This whole series is full of Claremontian plot threads that may or may not be important, and he may or may not have a plan for them when the plot thread is dropped, but the plot thread is there just in case he wants to pick it up later.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
All right. I'll take it.
Don't overthink it.
Yeah, right.
But
I don't
don't
overthink
underthink
anything here. That's not my job at all right now.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, Loial finally stops the group, points to a closed-up shop, and says it's under there. And Matt is super incredulous and says, "Under? How are we supposed to go under?" But Moiraine has a plan, and they follow her to go and find a cellar door. So apparently Moiraine can just make light balls appear out of thin air.
Yeah, light balls.
Turns out.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you, because here's a good side topic of discussion.
Well, it's super convenient that she can just, like, create balls of light from her hand.
Well, we know that she can create gigantic walls of fire.
Right.
So, like, a small ball of light in your hand might not be that difficult.
Yeah, well, Rand takes it as a measure of their journey that no one really seems to take it as a matter of course.
Yeah, they've seen crazier things.
Yeah, especially from Moiraine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they see that there's a huge iron lock on the cellar door, and Loial says that he can break it off, but it'll be loud enough to wake the neighborhood, and Moiraine says, let's not damage the good man's property if we can avoid it, so she uses her staff to tap the lock gently and convince me that she doesn't say Aloha Mora quietly under her breath so no one hears. Convince me otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Prove me wrong. Yeah.
I've already got them poured.
Yeah. You know what's funny is because in my brain when I was writing these notes, I knew that you guys were having shots lined up. So I was like, oh, this seems like a natural place for a Harry Potter reference. And I was right.
Yeah, you were right. Because also it's safe to assume that she uses Lumos for her ball of light.
That's what I thought
there
too.
you go.
For everybody's sanity, are we going to count that as one? A 2 for 1?
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
a
a one.
That's a 2 for 1.
If we have not taken the shot, it's
in the
one.
same convo, so...
So here's a side topic of discussion just while we get these ready. I was going to ask Danny, so we know that the channeling the one power, there's the 5 distinct elements. There's earth, fire, air, water, and spirit. And if you were going to open a lock...
Spirit. Take your shot.
Spirit is what you... So I was going to ask, what would you use to open? Like, what weaves or what...
Yeah, spirit. Like,
You'd use
that's
spirit?
nothing. Like, she didn't use water. She didn't use... I guess maybe air. Like,
Okay.
maybe if you can force air into the lock to be key-shaped.
To, like, lift the little levers, whatever you want to call
Yeah,
them in a
I'm
lock?
still going to go with spirit. Because
Spirit?
that one
Okay.
is the most undefined to me.
Also because that makes us take a spirit.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
Good one.
That was bad.
Yeah, that was good, though.
That was reaching,
so
but-
good. It
okay.
was so good. Anyways, Moiraine uses Aloha Mora,
Yeah.
which is the spell to unlock things, which is pretty much the most... why do locks even exist in Harry Potter, is my question.
To keep muggles out, right? In the magical school of magic?
No. Aloha Mora is used to, keep students out who have wands who can just say Aloha Mora. Anyway, cheers, guys.
Cheers.
So, Moiraine heads into the cellar and tells everyone to light their lanterns and follow her down, and quickly, because it's gonna be light out soon. And now, Matt isn't superstitious, but he is a little stitious,
Nice.
and mutters something about taking horses indoors.
Yeah.
I wanted to know if this is, a real-life bad luck thing, and so I
yeah.
did some more research on horse facts.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Are you guys interested in some horse facts?
Totally.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay, I wanted to know if this is actually a real bad luck superstition, so I looked up horse superstitions.
Okay. All right. Go.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah, I would imagine.
So I picked out the best ones.
Okay.
Okay, so one is it's unlucky to rename your horse.
I've heard
Also,
that about
children.
boats, but not horses.
Boats?
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
boats.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I found a lot of threads of people getting race horses and then wanting to rename them, but then asking if it was bad luck to rename them. I found
Yeah.
a lot about that, actually. That's the most popular, common day one. Because there's another one that says, put a horseshoe in your butter churn to stop witches from stealing your butter.
Ah, yes, those witches.
I think I've heard that one. We volunteered at a historic site. Somebody made a butter churn at one point, and I think he told me that one.
Yeah.
That's really funny.
See? And the last one, a bridegroom must carry a horseshoe in his pocket to ensure a happy marriage.
Always a good idea.
Yeah. But how big are his pockets that he can just fit a horseshoe in his pocket?
If it's really old, pockets were ginormous back in the 16 and 1700s. And I think 1800s.
Fun fact about
About
pockets,
pockets,
in
yeah.
the 1600s.
I did not carry a horseshoe just for
Yeah,
that.
neither did you.
I didn't know.
Shoot, neither of us are going to have happy marriages.
Yeah.
Shoot. Okay, whatever. Moving on.
Okay, yeah. Let's go.
So this cellar is all dusty, and clearly no one's been using it in like a very, very long time. Also because that lock was super rusty and old, so...
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's the most used by this shopkeeper.
No. And Matt says, blood and ashes. Why would they build one of these gates in a place like this?
Yeah.
Okay, no, Matt. Like, has he always been this dumb, or did being cursed affect his IQ?
Well...
See, I always just assumed here that it's like when you wake up in the morning and you're really stupid. Because he has pretty much been in a coma for a while.
He has.
That's fair.
I mostly just want to talk about how the cellar looks because I have a Charleston reference for it.
Oh, I'm excited for this.
So there's a place in downtown Charleston called the Old Exchange Building. It's where they used to handle customs, and I think they did some court cases and stuff. And in the bottom of it, there you can actually see part of the old city wall because it was a walled city for a while, and you can see some water because it's right on the coast, and they let the water run under part of this building. And it's a dungeon. It's called the Provost Dungeon, and it's where they kept pirates and stuff. And the description of
That's
this
so
cellar,
cool.
except for the fancy wall where the actual gate is, fits that dungeon to a T with the brick and the arches and everything. It is a perfect description for that. So I'm sure that's what he was using as a reference.
That is so cool, because he did pull so much from like real life for his description of things. That is really neat.
Yeah, we'll have to go to Charleston, and then you'll have to take us on a tour of like Wheel of Time things.
Yeah, and
I
like Ogier
totally
Street,
will.
like you said that, I think. Yeah.
And I want to see some herons.
Yes. Yeah.
And since we volunteer at a historic site, we have passes that get ourselves and a guest in free, so we could get you into most of the places without having to pay for anything but parking.
Sweet. That's
Done.
our favorite thing, is when we don't have to pay for things.
That is true, yeah.
It makes things a lot easier.
Right? That's cool. But anyways, Matt saying this stupid, dumb thing really pisses Loial off. Like, to the point where he's so angry that I don't know that Ogiers can get this angry.
So this is the thing. He's not Loyal's not mad at Matt for saying this.
No,
dumb
no,
thing.
no. I
Yeah.
know that.
It's just like the trigger for him that
Yes,
sets
it
him
is a
off.
trigger for sure. And he's understandably pissed off. Like, I get why he's mad, because he says it was not always like this. And then he goes on to explain that once there were trees here. So he goes on to explain that once there were trees here. Every tree that an Ogier could coax to grow to keep the memory of the steading alive. All that murdered for this. And then he punches a column in the room, and bricks crack, and the whole column shakes, and a waterfall of dry mortar falls all around.
Yeah, and I think this really speaks to how mad he really is.
Yeah.
Because like you said, Ogiers seem to be the type of creature who aren't very hasty, and getting angry is a very hasty action.
Yeah, he wasn't even angry when people were calling him Trolloc and chasing him off the streets.
Yeah,
and
with like torches.
White cloaks
yeah.
were trying to like arrest him, and
Yeah, and he was just like, "Oh shoot, sorry."
yeah.
He's the Canadian of all the creatures, but yeah, here he gets mad enough to punch the wall. But again, another Lord of the Rings reference, totally when Treebeard sees that Saruman's like cut down all the forest, like that level of anger where he starts throwing big boulders at the tower. Yeah,
Totally
that.
Yeah. I mean, Loyal's basically an Ent, but fuzzier.
Yes, I agree.
He reminds me a lot of Quickbeam, and Quickbeam was my favorite in Lord of the Rings, and Loyal's my favorite in this, so.
Yeah.
We'll have to start implementing shots for your Lord of the Rings references.
I tone myself down so much. Like almost every chapter notes I have has like at least one Lord of the Rings reference.
Yeah, that's
so,
how I feel about Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Okay, so Moiraine has to calm Loial down here and says, what is done cannot be unwoven. No need to bring this place crumbling down. So she moves over to the wall that's different from the other brick walls. And this wall is made of a stone with intricate carvings all swirly, whirly vines and leaves on it. So Rand describes this wall as being older than the brick and mortar surrounding it, and men had once just added to what was already there, and still later, men made it into a cellar.
I have to wonder what the men were thinking when they decided to make that into a cellar instead of leaving something so beautiful visible.
I think they were thinking of using space.
Well, that's dumb, and the cellar doesn't even connect to the building that it's under.
They were men and not women.
That's a good point. I think it speaks to, like, if you think about the location, we know that waygates were made on the borders of groves and steadings and everything.
Yeah.
So this part of the city literally used to be an entire grove of trees.
Yeah.
Like, gigantic all around.
Well, that's why Loial is so pissed off.
Yeah, because there's not even a remnant.
There's not even, like, a tree.
But it's also very interesting to note the size of this. Like, we do get the description of the doors in the middle of this, but the waygate itself is the size of a wall.
Yeah.
Like, it's big. It's not just like a small little door that you see.
Okay. So in the center of this big wall is a carving more elaborate than the rest of the carvings. The carved leaves seem soft and more realistic. Moiraine puts her hand on one trefoil. How do you say this word? Trefoil?
Yeah, trefoil?
Yeah.
Trefoil?
Trefoil
Something
leaf?
along those lines. I think I've heard all the possible pronunciations, and I have no idea which one's right.
I know Girl
Okay.
Scout cookies are trefoils, and that's what I went with.
Yeah,
Oh,
trefoil.
trefoil.
Yeah.
Girl
So,
Scout cookies.
Well, and this is a big thing because trefoil is a graphic form. It's 3 overlapping rings that form one shape. So it's kind of like if you imagine the Olympic rings, take off 2 of them.
Oh,
And
I
it's-
was going to say like clovers.
Yeah,
Almost like
clovers.
the Irish
Yeah.
symbols.
Yeah.
That's exactly
Like
what
the
it is.
Celtic designs.
That's a trefoil
Yeah.
like symbol. So
It has 3 parts. That's the important thing.
And so Moiraine puts her hand on the only one of its kind on the wall, and she mutters, Avendisora, the tree of life is the key. And the leaf comes away in her hand, and she takes the leaf and places it in another groove on the wall, and then everything about the wall changes.
yes.
So are we thinking that just like a piece of the stone came away in her hand? Or did like an actual leaf appear? Like, I'm confused by this whole thing. I had to read it a couple times.
So imagine this big stone door, and then in the middle of the stone door, there is one specific trefoil leaf. And if you want to see what the leaf actually looks like, look at the chapter title.
Yes.
And that's what the symbol is.
Sure.
And then she pulls that piece of stone off of the door because it's a key.
Oh, okay.
She takes it off and puts it lower on the door into another spot.
Okay.
So essentially removing or putting
Yeah.
the key in a different place activates the doorway.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So it's intentional. It's like it's supposed to come off.
No, I know it's supposed to come off. That wasn't my question.
I can imagine me walking up to it and then like accidentally breaking something. Just
Yeah, you're not allowed to touch things.
yeah.
Basically, it's carved as a 3D thing. Like, there are 3D leaves all over it, and this one particular leaf is made so that you can pull it off.
Yeah, cool. Okay.
Yes.
That makes sense then. And so the wall splits in half, and the 2 halves swing open into the cellar, creating a doorway and revealing an odd shimmering surface that's reflected back at them.
Yes. So here's a question, Chris and Kayleigh. Did you guys ever watch Stargate?
No, we did not.
Okay.
I don't even know what that is.
I've heard it's good, but I
Stargate?
haven't had a chance to watch it yet.
I've had a ton of people tell me I
So-
should watch it, but I haven't yet.
Oh yeah, I grew up watching Stargate, and it was one of my favorite shows as a child. But a Stargate is like a giant interdimensional portal that takes people from one world to another world, and the description is exactly like Stargate, where
Cool.
it's a shimmering reflective surface that they can go through, and it takes them into like through another dimension, basically.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
See, I instantly thought of one of the Goosebumps books where they went into the mirror.
I thought you would make an Alice in Wonderland or Out Through the Looking Glass reference. You love that book.
Well, guess what, guys? I actually have a Harry Potter reference for this.
I think I had the same one.
So, just for reference, there are several times in the Harry Potter series where there is a solid wall that after some magic tinkering becomes a doorway.
Oh.
So one
Okay.
being the most common, the Diagon Alley.
Okay.
When you tap the bricks in a certain pattern, they open to create the open archway into Diagon Alley. That's a solid brick wall. And then 2 for sure is the creepy cave where the locket is hidden in book 6.
Okay.
See, for me, I thought of Chamber of Secrets.
Oh, Chamber of Secrets.
What part of that? I don't know as well, so.
But it made me think of Chamber of Secrets, the way it described it changing and like coming to life and stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Right, because in the books it was through the mirror?
No, it's through like the sink.
Okay.
But you have to say some magic stuff and then it like moves and creates an opening.
Gotcha.
So same thing. But then also in book 6, in the creepy cave where they have to go get the locket,
Yep.
Dumbledore had to cut his hand to smear blood on the cave wall.
Okay.
Because you have to weaken yourself to enter.
Ah, okay.
And that's when it opens into a doorway.
Did it have a shimmering reflective surface?
No, not at all.
Okay.
But they did go on a lake.
No, none of them had that.
No.
Okay.
Not that part. And then also, the way this doorway works, where you have to like walk through something without knowing what's on the other side, definitely reminds me of Platform 9 3/4.
Okay, okay.
Where you have to walk through the solid brick wall.
Sure, yeah. No, I can see similarities.
Okay, I didn't even pour these while I was talking.
Okay, cheers.
Okay, cheers. All right, so let's get to the ways. Let's get in there.
Let's get into the ways.
Or as I like to call it, the danger zone.
Oh, good one. Danger zone. So, Loial says that once it was said that the waygates shone like mirrors, and who entered the ways walked through the sun and the sky.
Yeah, and that's a huge comparison to darker than the darkest night.
Oh, yeah.
So, but again, that all comes down to the taint that we know is,
Tainty.
Tainting the ways.
Mm-hmm. So Moiraine says that there is no time for waiting, and this is Lan's signal to head in first. Go Lan. So Lan walks through and vanishes to the other side without even like flinching, because he's so cool, and everyone just stands there waiting. And Moiraine says to hurry, and she needs to be the last one through.
Yeah. I mean, and we can also assume that they themselves have never been in the ways before.
No one's been in the ways. What do you mean we can assume that?
Well, that's not true. We know that that's not true.
What? What? What do you mean?
Okay. So we know that Loial said that the elders said no one else can go into the ways.
Yeah.
But in a page or two, we also get Loial who says, I've met someone who's been through the ways and comes out.
Yes, I know that, but that could be a really old Ogier.
But even really old Ogier still only max out at like 400.
400 years, yeah. You think Moiraine and Lan have been in the ways?
No, I didn't say they have been.
That's what it sounded like.
No, I said we know that Moiraine and Lan haven't been in the ways, and you said no one's been in the ways, and we know that's not true. That's where I said that's not true.
Is this a miscommunication?
It sounds like a miscommunication, yeah.
Okay. Good one. I don't know.
This is really Chris's fault. If we want to talk about
You can
this.
blame whatever you need to on me.
Everything's Chris's fault.
That's usually how it goes.
Okay, well...
Okay, redo that.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I was agreeing
Okay.
with you.
So Moiraine says to hurry, and she needs to be the last one through. I guess to close it, because she knew how to open it, so...
Yeah,
I also have a question about that. How did she know so easy that that's what you were supposed to do?
it's a good question.
Yeah,
Maybe she reads a lot too.
I doubt it. Maybe. Actually, never mind. I bet maybe she reads. Not as much as Loial, though, if that's what you're implying.
We know Moiraine knows about the ways. Like, she's got a basic understanding of it from her references previously to the ways.
That's true.
But-
And then we get later that she actually even knows Ogier's script.
Loosely, yeah. She
So
knows
she's
like a little
well
bit.
read, I suppose.
Yeah. And she knows a little bit, but not enough to actually like guide them through.
Just from a storytelling standpoint, I mean, that would be really horrible if they could find the waygate, but then nobody knew how to open the door.
That's true.
Yeah, I guess I kind of expected it to be Loial
Yeah.
who does it, and then Moiraine just walks up and is like, "Dup, dup, dup, I'm Moiraine. I know everything. Here's how we do it. Okay, everyone, let's go. Time's a wasting."
I like to imagine that Loial actually does know how to open the door, but he doesn't want to open the door because he's not quite that hasty and he doesn't want to go through the ways.
And it does make sense that the Aes Sedai would know something about it, since the male Aes Sedai made it, and the female Aes Sedai who are still around would want to study it and know what in the world is going on.
I like both those theories. That's good, actually. Good insight. So Loial goes with a sigh. He goes through, and then Rand is up. And he walks through. He feels something icy slide along his skin, as if he was passing through a wall of cold water. And then once on the other side, the coldness bursts like a bubble, and he can see the blackness that seems to stretch out forever.
Yeah, and it's a really cool description where even the lanterns don't really seem to give off as much light as they should. It's almost like the darkness is trying to suppress the light.
Yeah, it sounds so terrifying. And I can't imagine how scary that must be, because that's more than just dark. I can't imagine being in a place where it's so dark that the darkness is pushing back at you beyond just normal nighttime.
Yeah, pressing back on the light. So Loial cautions Rand on going easy when passing through the waygate. Things are different inside than out. They look at the waygate, and then Rand says that it looks like you could walk all the way around it. And Loial says that it's not wise to go behind the waygate. The books are not very clear about what's on the other side, and you could become lost there and never find your way out.
Yeah, and how terrifying is that, walking behind a doorway and then getting lost forever? Like, what does that even mean?
Yeah, it's crazy.
It sounds so scary, and at the same time, it kind of reminds me of the intro to Twilight Zone with the door that's just kind of in the middle of nowhere. And
I was going to say Twilight Zone vibe, yeah.
Yeah, just the idea that a door is sitting there and it can go somewhere, but it's not really in a place is just weird.
Yeah, and then they can look back and see into the cellar, but all distorted like.
Yeah. So if you think about looking inwards or outwards into this gateway, when they looked originally into it, it had that shimmering vibe, which should have been like bright, but that's like the darkness coming from the other side, so they can see through from inside to back out to the real world.
Yeah, where all the light is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But it is also kind of funny to note, because Loial kind of gives a description about how the wheel turns faster in the ways.
Yeah.
And that's in large part why they can travel further, obviously, but it's funny because RJ did have his background in physics, and you have to assume he had some theories about how the world worked, and like then you can get into the whole black holes thing and all that too. So
interesting.
Yeah, there's a whole like spiraling path you can really go down about how the universe works versus how the ways work.
Could also think of it like how in video games, if there's day and night stuff, like in some of the Zelda games, it happens a lot faster than if you were playing in real time. So they just kind of sped it up inside of the ways.
Yeah, Loial also says that none alive know very much about them either. And he says that he fears what he does not know about the ways. Because this is a guy who knows so much about everything in this world. Or he thinks he does anyway. He's very well studied. And so now he's scared of being in this place where he doesn't know everything about it.
Well, and besides the fact that he knows everything about the world as the world was like 1,000 years ago.
Right.
Like everything he's already mentioned, everything he studied is not relevant anymore. And the ways, the nearest information they had was probably about 1,000 years ago as well. So how much have the ways changed in 1,000 years?
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah.
And the poor guy's just completely out of his element.
Yeah, and then Lan speaks up here and says that the Dark One cannot be defeated without chancing risks, but we are alive now, and before them is hope of remaining alive. So do not surrender before you are beaten, Ogier.
Yeah, never give up, never surrender.
And Loial replies that he has seen Ogier who have traveled the ways and come out again. And he says that Lan would not speak so confidently if he had seen him too. So that's just saying to me that even though Loial has met someone who's come out of the ways, clearly a different person with issues, he's still doing this anyway, right? Like he knows the consequences.
Yeah.
Or potential consequences.
Well, even putting yourself in Loial's shoes, Loial is doing something very similar to what Tom did. And we only know very limited information about Tom himself. But Loial's a guy who has literally no connection to Rand, has decided to go along for the journey, and even when it's probably in his better self-interest to just, not go, he has no obligation to Moiraine or any of the crew to follow, but he's still going.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty huge.
He understands that they need him, and he's going to, sacrifice for that.
Yeah. Well, and for someone he's just met.
Yeah. Tavaren.
Yeah. Hasty decision-making.
Or that. One or the other.
Yeah, that's part of why I love Loial. He's just willing to do whatever needs to happen to help his friends, even if they're pretty new friends.
Yeah, I was going to say, because even friends, Rand's been nice to him in the inn and, hung out with him.
I think they're friends. I'd say they're friends. They are. They're friends.
Yeah, but if you go and risk your life for a friend you've known for a week, that's some pretty powerful something going on here, so.
Well, when a friend asks for help, you help them.
Yeah, exactly.
He also wanted an adventure, so,
He did.
Yeah.
He wanted the adventure. He was totally Bilbo. But, see, I can make Lord of the References, too. Lord of the Lord of the Rings references.
You were so close.
Yeah. Everyone files in after Rand, and everyone is super uneasy, including the horses. The horses don't like this place either, which is important to note. But Moiraine reaches through, finds the leaf on the stone gate on the inside, moves it back to its original place, and then she walks through. And behind her, the stone gate closes.
Yeah, so there's basically one key on both sides of the door.
Yeah.
So you can enter or exit.
Yeah, which makes sense.
Yeah.
It would be bad if there wasn't a way to close it behind you. So
Yeah, because you don't know which direction you're coming from, so.
Yeah. So Moiraine tells Loial that they have to be on their way, and Rand notices a broad white line running on the ground, almost like a path for them to follow. So Loial says that this white line will lead them to their first guiding.
Yeah, so we get a little bit of information here, so.
So there's a lot of description about how weird and dark this place is.
Yeah, he's really drilling in the fact that if you haven't noticed yet,
this place is weird and dark.
It's dark.
And weird.
And dark.
Yeah.
And weird.
Oh, and weird. Yeah, absolutely. So here's a question, though. So they kind of bring up again the fact that the light is being suppressed. And the amount of lights is helping kind of push back the darkness. But they only have about 10 feet. And we already know previously this group of people, of travelers, have gotten into a couple issues where in their horse lines, they fall too far apart. Think back to Shadow Logoth.
I don't want to think about that.
Oh, I'm going to make you.
I'm so mad about that
So
scene.
back in Shadow Logoth, they drifted far enough apart that Mashadar was able to get between them, which caused the entire separation.
Yes.
So what happens here in the ways if they fall more than 10 feet apart? Your light is no longer there. Sure, there's a guiding white line, but...
They haven't fallen apart yet because they feel the need to be close to each other, and the horses feel better when they're closer to the horses. So I think maybe it's more the horses who are going to keep to the other horses than the people keeping to the other people.
Okay. So are you worried at all?
No.
Just prediction
Well,
time?
I'm worried about a lot of things happening because none of this is good. I don't have anything specific because this is such a weird, strange place. Is someone going to get lost in the dark void of the ways forever and ever?
Yeah, that's really what I wanted to hear was what's your prediction, official prediction time.
Yeah.
Do you think there's going to be any separation of the group in the ways?
I don't think there'll be a separation.
No?
No, I think that Moiraine has learned the hard way to keep everyone together.
Okay.
And Moiraine seems to be on top of things right now. So as they move through the ways, Rand's hand keeps drifting to his sword, and he tries to find the void and the calm, but the weight of everything keeps coming back. And after a while of traveling, they come up to a stone slab sticking out of the ground, and there is Ogier script written on it. And this is where we get that Moiraine can also read Ogier script.
Yeah, so she has like a basic understanding, not enough to guide them through, it seems, but like very basic.
Yeah, and it is so broken on the stone that she can barely make out what it says. But Loial says he has enough on there that he can figure it out to know the way. So that's good for now.
Yeah.
At this point, I was kind of worried about if there's going to be another one of these sort of direction signs, and if it's going to be even harder to read. Are they just going to get lost in here forever?
That would be bad.
Yeah.
Right?
So, I mean, yeah, and it's kind of good to note that these guidings are pretty common, and it seems like they're just a roadmap of directions, like this way to here, this way to there.
Yeah.
Which is why there's like the white lines guiding people too, so.
Well, and I find it interesting that it's so dark, but they can still see the white lines.
Only when it's on the ground.
Yeah.
Like in front of them where the light is.
Right.
Like if there was no light, I don't think they could see the lines.
I think of them kind of as the lines on the road where they're reflective, so they stand out if you shine light directly at them.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, so they stop somewhere that has bridges and ramps leaving all around it, and Loial calls it an island.
Yeah.
And on it, there's another guiding,
Yep.
which is
Roadmap.
So he leads them up another ramp, curving and ascending to yet another island. And this place seems pretty confusing. But, like, I guess it has to be. Like, it's a method of time traveling, essentially. So...
Yeah, so I think I had a lot of trouble envisioning this too, but the best way to describe it would be imagine, like, the darkness of space all around you in all directions, and then these islands and bridges are literally like floating islands of where you walk across.
Sounds like a good video game.
Of walking?
Yeah.
So you don't really know how far, and that's part of the tough part of this, is that there used to be sun and sky apparently.
Yeah.
But now it's all darkness. So it's like these islands are just like floating.
Well, and Rand
discs,
even
if you
thinks,
will.
like, could this island really just be on top of that last island?
Yeah, because at one of
They're
them they like wind up
traveling
and up.
Upwards instead of forwards? Or,
Yeah.
Like, it's very confusing.
Yeah.
So Rand notes here that he has lost all sense of direction and all sense of time, but good news because Lan is so good at everything that he just knows as soon as Rand starts feeling hungry, he produces some food and announces that it's midday.
Yeah. Might just be when Lan's hungry.
Yeah, but how does Lan know? Does he have like a watch?
No, but also how do you know what time it is just naturally?
I don't.
He has a really
Okay.
good internal clock.
And I think that internal clock is called his tummy.
Oh,
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I don't think that Lan gets hungry and tired in the same way that other people do. Like, we got that the first time they were traveling. Moiraine wanted him to rest and eat with everybody else, and he was like, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
Didn't that happen at one point?
I think it's just internal clock, because if you think about like nowadays, like people do have internal clocks, and
Yeah.
these people don't have watches to, like, they're not constantly looking at the time. So
I think that we're also led to believe that Lan is just, like, better than the average person.
he is better than the average person. So
Just at everything.
yeah.
Yeah.
Also, if he's hungry, they probably should have stopped a couple hours ago.
That's what I was saying. So Lan produces bread and cheese and meat for lunch. but time is too valuable to waste in the ways, so they have to eat and ride, which is an awkward affair.
Yeah.
Turns out, with their poles, with their lanterns and the reins, and they're trying to eat food and
Not so easy.
no, but they make it work. Matt, like, the most upset out of all of them. So Moiraine also tells them here that they will stop when it's time to sleep. And I actually did have a question about whether or not they were going to finish this journey in one day.
Yeah.
Or if they were actually going to have to sleep here.
Yeah.
And I guess that answers that question.
Well, this is the tough part, is that when Loial introduced the ways, he said walk for a day and you could be 100 miles or 500 miles.
Yes.
And it kind of gave the impression that you could walk anywhere in a day.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was hoping that the journey would be over in a day.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like that's the case.
Shoot.
So you can travel far, but we also know where they are in Camelin. To Fal Dara is half a world away.
See, I don't know that.
They could walk 500 miles. They could walk 500 more, but they still wouldn't get to where they needed to go necessarily.
Nice. Good reference. Just to show up at Fal Dara's door.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I was hoping that this journey would only take a day, but they apparently do have to sleep here. And Rand is also very uneasy at the thought of having to sleep here.
Yes.
So that, I get it. It's understandable.
Well, nobody wants to sleep in a creepy place like this.
Yeah, but apparently Rand just gets, like, real used to it, because after a while he starts thinking about how Loial made this place out to be worse than it actually is, and he thinks that nothing happens here and nothing changes, and he's been through way worse, and the ways are actually almost boring.
Yeah, and it's almost as if Rand has not yet learned that when at the end of a chapter you say something like, oh, and then once we get here, everything will be just okay.
It won't be okay.
It won't be okay, and something will inevitably happen.
I did write in my notes, obviously something is about to happen with a statement like that, Rand.
Yeah. Gosh, it's so boring here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not foreshadowing at
Realistically,
all.
Yeah.
And cue something happening, because Loial stops with a grunt, and just ahead, the bridge that they're traveling on ends in a jagged gap.
Yes.
Well, that's not good.
So the entire chapter, we got a bunch of different small little tidbits from Rand realizing and noticing that, you know, things were starting to break and crumble.
This place is falling apart.
The place is literally deteriorating. There's like pock and holes in the stone, and then we've got full out destruction here of bridges. So.
Oh, I did miss my note where I said this place is kind of falling apart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like little indicators here and there, but it is deteriorating.
It's almost like Robert Jordan could see Charleston bridges and all of their old construction falling apart around how you needed to get around the city.
Yeah, they replaced them while we were in college.
Nice.
It's like these roads used to be smooth, but now they're filled with holes.
Yeah.
We just call that area downtown.
That's good. But that is the end of this chapter.
Yeah, so I think it's prediction time, though, because I'm going to need some thoughts out of you here. So we can assume something's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because Rand thinks it's boring. So it's really his fault.
Yeah.
But I just want to kind of get some ideas.
It also is kind of my fault. I was thinking that this is also kind of boring. So
So what do you think's going to happen, and when? Do you think that...
Well, maybe Moiraine is able to magic up some bridge fix.
Okay. Like a patch it yourself.
With magic.
Yeah, with magic fix. Okay.
Maybe. That's a possibility.
Do you think that something's going to happen while they sleep, or like the next day on their journey?
Well, right now I'm not concerned about them sleeping. Right now I'm concerned about this jagged hole in the bridge they're traveling on.
Okay.
How are they going to get to where they want to go?
Yeah.
That's more my concern. Are they going to have to turn around, go back to the island, find a different path, and it's going to take even longer?
Okay.
Or are they going to be able to patch it somehow and carry on?
Yeah.
That's like my biggest concern at this moment.
Okay.
So I think they're going to make it to the Blight.
Yeah.
Yep. Only because I know there's a book called To the Blight.
Okay.
That's my prediction.
All right.
I don't know how. I hope this bridge gets fixed.
It seems to be one-track mind.
Well, it would be a really boring series if they just kind of wandered around in empty blackness for the rest of the 15 books.
Well, yeah.
So here's a question. If you had to choose one of the crew right now to go crazy or die in the ways, who would you sacrifice?
Nynaeve.
What? You answered really quickly.
She's annoying me a lot.
So who you want rather than who you think is
I'm
most
shocked
likely.
by the quickness.
Your
of
answer is either the best or the worst answer possible.
I know, right?
I'm just shocked at the quickness of which she answered. Like, she didn't know I was going to ask that question.
No.
She had no preparation for that. And she is ready and willing to sacrifice Nynaeve. Here you go. Okay.
I think she's holding them all back. Like, I don't even know why she's on this journey.
So you are not going to get a Nynaeve quote tattoo then?
Probably not. That's probably not my first choice. I'm probably gonna get the quote, "There's good money in cats."
I like that quote. Cats are awesome.
Kayleigh, do you want to put someone on blast for who you would want to sacrifice? I know you know how all this turns out, but if you had to sacrifice someone to the ways, who would you let go at this point?
Honestly, at this point, I like Matt the least still, even though I'm really happy that he's not cursed anymore. He's just, we haven't gotten a chance to know him or like him at all. He's just been kind of a jerk.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's fair. I have a Matt connection. I don't know. I feel a connection to Matt. Although he is kind of stupid right now, but
Wouldn't that be a kicker to have Matt go through this cursedness with the dagger, be cured by Moiraine, and then immediately killed in the ways?
No, that wouldn't be worth
Oh,
it
man.
reading
then they
live.
wouldn't even have to worry about the dagger. They could just like leave the dagger in the ways and not even have to worry.
That would be
awful
A nice little
convenient.
wrap up.
Yeah, it would be convenient. Chris, who would you kill off?
See, I really don't know. Initially, I want to say Lan just because I'm pretty sure he could survive, but they probably need him to get out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're not sacrificing Lan. You're saying Lan can go on his own way because
And
he'll
be
be fine.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
But
different.
Yeah.
Moraine's the one who can read the signs.
But Lan is Lan.
That's true.
I don't want to sacrifice anybody.
You have to. No one wants to sacrifice anyone.
Well, except for Danielle. She wants to sacrifice Nynaeve. She's
Okay.
So
pretty willing,
I'm clearly going
So-
with my choice of who can get out all by themselves.
okay. If anyone's curious, I'd say bye to Perrin.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perrin right now is kind of in a
Angsty mood? I don't know.
self-loathing
Yeah.
place. At least that's how it comes across. All right. Well, I think that will be the end for this chapter.
Yeah. That's the
Thank
end
you
of the-
guys for coming on and chatting with us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's always a fun time to be a part of somebody else's show and not have to edit it.
All right, so everyone, make sure you go and check out Chris at Play Comics. How can they find you on social media if they're looking?
You can
Chris?
either head over to playcomics.com, which does have a link to everything, or I'm mostly on Twitter at PlayComicsCast.
All right, and that's everything video games, right?
It's video games based on comic properties and how well they stick to that source material. So if there maybe would be a bonus episode looking at a Wheel of Time video game, which does exist, maybe you could find that there
Yes.
too as well.
Whoa,
Yeah.
cool.
Oh yeah, spoiler alert, there is a game. I've never played it.
Yeah, there is.
Cool.
If I can figure out a way to get that game
will make
and
it
also
happen.
get a computer that can play that game, then I am down to do that. So
Even if we could find some like reviews on it.
Yeah,
or
we'll definitely
something.
make it happen.
We'll make something happen.
yeah,
We got to have more crossover content, so I'm excited
Agreed.
for that. Sounds good. All right, so thanks again for joining us, and I think we can officially say that this is part of the pattern now.
it is
It's
part,
part
of the
pattern.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Wheel Weaves. If you're interested in bonus content, cool stickers, shoutouts, access to exclusive insider looks, and to support us making great content, you can head over to patreon.com/thewheelweavespodcast. You can find us on social media where we love interacting with our listeners. We're on Twitter at The Wheel Weaves Podcast and on Instagram at The Wheel Weaves Podcast. You can also join the conversation on our Discord channel. There is a channel for no spoilers that I have access to, and we also have a spoilers channel that Brett controls, so fun for everybody. There will be a link on Twitter and also over on our Patreon page. You can check that out. Please feel free to rate, comment, and subscribe. This really does make a huge difference. Plus, if you want to tell a friend about us, maybe someone who is just getting into the book series for the first time, or other longtime fans who you think would enjoy us, word of mouth is the best way for us to reach new listeners, and we would take it as a really huge compliment. Thanks, as always, to audionautics.com for the music, and thanks to you awesome listeners.